Regulate your stress to improve your health and achieve your greatest potential. Today, our lifestyles are fueled by stress. We rush from one place to the next, skimp on sleep, and work late to meet deadlines. In fact, we're more stressed now than ever before, and it's making us sick, too. In the short term, heightened levels of stress cause anxiety, weight gain, and decreased cognitive performance. In the long term, stress can lead to heart attacks, strokes, autoimmune diseases, and has even been linked to premature mortality. However, small doses of stress can work in our favor, too. The biological responses we have to stressful moments, where our hearts thump in our chest and adrenaline courses through our veins, are what keep us on our toes during a job interview, or what helps us find solutions in chaotic circumstances. So, instead of completely avoiding stress, which, let's face it, is pretty impossible, we should learn to use it to our advantage. In these blinks, we'll take a look at the role stress plays in our lives, and how we can harness it to grow personally and professionally. In this video, you'll learn what factors drive stress in the modern world, why athletes are a model for stress management, and how small doses of stress can actually help you achieve your goals. Our fast-paced world and hunger for success are increasing our stress levels. We've all heard the warnings. Our busy lives are sending us into a spiral of stress. Health experts around the world are telling us to slow down, take time off, and implement more work-life balance. Many of us have taken up yoga and meditation to calm our nerves, or are simply popping pills to help us get some sleep. All of this raises the question, why are we so stressed? Here's the key message: our fast-paced world and hunger for success are increasing our stress levels. According to author Richard Sutton, our physical and mental well-being depends on our ability to establish balance in our lives. If we're balanced, we're able to move easily between states of arousal and regeneration, or activity and rest. The problem is, modern society makes it impossible for us to maintain our balance for several reasons. For one thing, being constantly connected via technology makes it harder for us to defend our free time. We're available 24 hours a day to respond to work calls or emails or reply to friends or family that need our support. As a result, our schedules are brimming with things to do and people to attend to, while the time for ourselves is often left off the list. Another reason is this: the admiration of success and intolerance of failure is fast becoming the norm in our society. Whether we realize it or not, all of us are pushing ourselves to be bigger and better than ever before. At the same time, our desire to compete, and ultimately succeed, is steadily increasing. Now, longer working hours, extended work weeks, and less annual leave are commonplace in working environments. Is it any wonder that our stress levels are skyrocketing? The bad news is that it's only getting worse. According to a study completed by researchers at the Yale University School of Medicine and the University of California, Los Angeles, the average person in developed society experiences between 4 and 5 episodes of stress every week. For many of us, life often feels like walking a tightrope. We try to move forward steadily, but personal and professional pressures always threaten to push us off balance. That's why learning to manage stress, and even to harness it for our benefit, is crucial. Feeling out of control is the reason why you're stressed at work. Would it surprise you to know that work is the primary source of stress in our lives? Probably not. We're all guilty of working our fingers to the bone and leaving very little space for me time. But few of us take time to reflect on just why our jobs are so stressful. The key message in this blink is, feeling out of control is the reason why you're stressed at work. In the Whitehall studies of 1967, Professor Michael Marmot monitored 28,000 British civil servants over a 40-year period. The studies confirmed for the first time that stress in the workplace directly impacts people's health and lifespan. He also proved that an employee's rank within an organization affects their stress levels. You might be thinking this sounds obvious. Of course, senior employees will experience more stress than their juniors. They have more responsibilities, more people to manage, and more severe consequences if they mess up. However, the Whitehall studies proved the opposite. Lower-ranking employees had the most stress and the worst health, and a higher risk of premature death. In fact, their risk of mortality was 300% higher than their senior employees. But why? Well, the second of the Whitehall studies found that lower-ranking employees had less social support, less variety within their work and, most importantly, a lack of control over decision-making, compared with those in more senior positions. Since then, many researchers have built on the idea that a lack of control affects employee well-being. For example, a Danish 2008 review of 16 studies, which involved 63,000 participants, linked this feeling of powerlessness in the workplace with depressive symptoms and major depressive episodes. The impact that stress has on people's mental health also has a knock-on effect on businesses and the economy. Stressed employees are absent from work more and more, productivity is declining and, as a result, the bottom line of many businesses is affected. So, what can be done? Well, the short answer is that leaders of organizations have to improve their working environments. They can start by giving their employees more control over their work, and more involvement in company decision-making. Managers can also increase their support to employees, and make an effort to stamp out antisocial behavior in the office. Think of it this way: reducing stress in the workplace benefits everyone. It boosts the health and happiness of employees, enhances productivity, and improves overall business performance. Stress happens in a two-wave process and has good and bad effects on your body. Our ancestors lived in huts in the wild and foraged for their food. The stress they experienced on a daily basis was triggered by real physical threats, like a neighboring community attempting to steal their supplies, or a wild animal searching for its supper. In moments of extreme danger, our bodies learn to issue a stress response, a biological mechanism that could rally the major systems of the body together to protect us from harm. The stress response does a number of things: it releases energy, enhances muscle power, boosts mental acuity, and even promotes pain resistance. It's one of the main reasons why humans have been able to survive all these years. The key message here is, stress happens in a two-wave process and has good and bad effects on your body. So, what happens to us when we experience stress? Our body's stress response is divided into two waves: the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal (SAM) axis and the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal (HPA) axis. The first wave is the fight or flight reaction issued by the hypothalamus, our brain's control center. This reaction rapidly activates the sympathetic nervous system and releases the adrenaline hormone. First, let's talk about what happens to your body when adrenaline is released. It elevates the heart rate, improves circulation to the brain and limbs, releases energy into the bloodstream, and kicks the immune system into action to protect you from infection. It also heightens your sense of smell and improves your eyesight. Then comes the second wave of the stress response, where the surge in adrenaline triggers your adrenal glands to produce cortisol. This hormone helps to regulate the immune system's function by balancing out the effect of adrenaline. Without cortisol, our immune system would become overactive, and harmful to the body as a result. At this point, you might be thinking the stress response sounds great. Who wouldn't want increased immunity and superhuman senses? The thing is, activating the stress response can be great in the short term, but in the long term, it can be damaging to our health. This is because cortisol and adrenaline, which are released into the bloodstream when our bodies detect a threat, can be toxic to the body in high amounts. For example, chronically raised cortisol can lead to a number of problems like digestive issues, weight gain, and memory loss. Adrenaline, on the other hand, raises your blood pressure and can increase your risk of a heart attack or stroke. Chronic stress is having a profound impact on our long-term health. Picture this. You've already worked 50 hours this week, and it's now Friday morning. You hear your alarm go off, and you groan as you roll over to get out of bed. You're exhausted, that much is obvious. You haven't been sleeping much lately, and as a result, your body is aching all over. You don't really have much desire to eat either, your digestive system is all out of whack, and your head is pounding. These are examples of how stress can affect us in the short term. But, what happens to us when we experience stress for long periods of time? The key message here is, chronic stress is having a profound impact on our long-term health. As we all know, stress is a constant in our lives, and in some ways, it's unavoidable. However, prolonged periods of stress over months and years can cause us to reach a level of complete burnout, physically and mentally. This is called chronic stress. You may be all too familiar with this, and the author experienced it too. In 2007, Sutton endured what he calls an inevitable breakdown from chronic stress. He was hired as the athletic director for the Chinese Olympic team in the run-up to the Olympic Games, set to take place in Beijing the following year. The job seemed like a dream come true. However, settling into his new home on the Olympic training site was impossible. For starters, the place felt like a prison. There were armed people at the gates and throughout the center itself, social media was banned, and the only way he could communicate with the outside world was through email. No one spoke any English either. Over the course of a few months, Sutton began to feel incredibly isolated. He worked 70-hour weeks, rarely left the training site, and spoke, basically, to no one. Worn down by the constant stress, Sutton's body eventually collapsed. He was constantly sick, lived on painkillers and antibiotics, and suffered kidney damage as a result. According to the author, these stories are becoming all too common in today's world. An increasing number of people are suffering from issues related to their immune, nervous, and reproductive systems, and mental health issues are becoming more prevalent. Not only that, but young people are suffering from conditions that were only previously seen in the elderly. With this in mind, it can be hard to imagine why stress could be good for anybody. However, science has shown that small doses of stress can actually help us achieve our potential. Small doses of stress can spur us on to achieve our goals. In the mid-2000s, the author was advising a top tennis player on his health and performance during the grass court season. After the season ended, the author flew back home to South Africa. While he was gone, the player injured his shoulder. Originally, Sutton didn't panic. He told the athlete to seek help from local therapists until he could be back in the United States to examine him. But, when Sutton returned, even he couldn't identify the problem with the player's shoulder or improve his symptoms. Knowing that the US Open Tennis Championship was coming up in less than a week, the author started to panic. He had to find a solution to the problem. His job, and his career, depended on it. Here's the key message: small doses of stress can spur us on to achieve our goals. Faced with this challenge, Sutton went into complete overdrive mentally and physically. He couldn't sleep, eat, or relax for even a second. He was anxious, that's for sure, but he also had more energy and determination to find a solution. This burst of stress was exactly what he needed. After poring over books for days, Sutton stumbled upon a technique called visceral manipulation, which seemed like it might be a helpful treatment method for the athlete's shoulder. Excited by this discovery, Sutton rushed to the player's hotel room to try it out. His hands were clumsy, and his technique was bordering on aggressive, but, surprisingly, it worked. The next day, the player reported that he'd made a miraculous recovery overnight, and was eager to play his first match of the tournament. Sutton breathed a sigh of relief. He'd been on such a roller coaster the past few weeks that he was exhausted. However, there were positives to be gleaned from the situation. For one thing, he realized that stress, the thing that everyone knows to be bad, actually gave him the impetus to succeed. It turns out, scientists also believe that acute stress, that is, stress experienced in the short term, can be positive. It can help us adapt to change, take risks, and find solutions in challenging circumstances. Like an athlete, you can learn to manage stress with a holistic approach. For many of us, the life of a professional athlete looks pretty glamorous. They have large salaries, adoring fans, celebrity lifestyles, and a job they love. However, behind the scenes, professional athletes suffer hardships, too. In addition to their exhausting training schedules, they have to deal with unfair team politics, high public expectations, and controlling coaches. They also have to cope with endless travel and separation from their families. But athletes seem to manage to avoid chronic stress and maintain an exceptional level of physical and mental health. So, what's the secret? The key message here is, like an athlete, you can learn to manage stress with a holistic approach. Athletes have a remarkable resilience to ongoing life challenges and chronic stress for a number of reasons. For starters, they're trained to see stress as a positive experience, a healthy dose of pressure that can spur them on to succeed. They're also taught to channel stress in a healthy way by reaching out to their network of coaches, trainers, and sports psychologists for support. When it comes to managing physical stress, diet and exercise naturally play a role. An athlete's nutritional intake is designed to promote recovery, reduce inflammation, and provide energy. That's why they consume the best foods and limit their intake of caffeine and alcohol. To soothe tired muscles, athletes follow stretching routines and get regular massages, and they also follow relaxation protocols. Meditation, yoga, and breathing exercises are used to calm their nerves and boost their concentration. Basically, athletes are like a well-oiled machine, where all the component parts work together harmoniously to keep the engine running. It's no surprise that they have longer lifespans and less risk of disease. So, how can you follow their example? Well, you might not have time to get a weekly massage or cook up healthy meals every day, but simply tidying up your diet and taking time to relax can work wonders. It also might help to change the way you view stress. Scientists have proven that when a stressful event is combined with the perception that stress is bad for your health, it increases the risk of premature mortality by 43%. Basically, worrying that stress is bad for you simply makes you more stressed. So, whenever you do feel stress creeping in, don't add to your worries by thinking about how it's bad for your health. Instead, view it as a positive experience that will spur you on to achieve your goals. Activating the vagus nerve can help you shut down your stress response. Sometimes, being stressed is just inconvenient. You can't think or concentrate, and your mind feels like a tangled web of thoughts and worries. But, what if there was some way of switching stress off? Fortunately, science has discovered the off button, a way to shut down your stress response when things get to be too much. How can you achieve this? Well, the key message here is, activating the vagus nerve can help you shut down your stress response. Let's start with what the vagus nerve actually is. It happens to be one of the longest and most influential nerves in the body. It travels from the top of the skull behind the ears, all the way through the front of the chest, and down toward the abdomen. It helps our brains communicate with our organs, like the heart and lungs, and other systems, like the digestive tract. But it can also calm the body after a fight or flight state caused by adrenaline. So, how does it work? Well, think of it like this: activating the vagus nerve is kind of like stretching a muscle after you exercise. When we stretch a tight hamstring, it restores the muscles to their normal resting length. As a result, the strains of exercise are reduced, and the benefits enhanced. This is exactly what happens when we activate the vagus nerve after a period of stress. Doing this dramatically lowers levels of cortisol, reduces inflammation, and helps bring our minds back to a state of balance. Fortunately, there are many activities we can do to increase vagal activation. Some of these include meditation, controlled breathing exercises, swimming, and even listening to calming music. Yoga is also a great way to activate the vagus nerve. When practiced on a daily basis, it's been proven to reduce cortisol by 40%. Yoga has become increasingly popular as a stress buster in the modern world, and for good reason. Not only is it relatively simple, it includes breathing exercises, deep relaxation techniques, meditation, and physical postures that get the blood pumping. It also helps to release tension, promote physical strength and flexibility, and improve your emotional well-being. So, it turns out that we can switch stress off, it just takes a bit of practice. When you feel yourself getting stressed, don't just sit there and let it linger. Instead, go for a swim, step onto a yoga mat, or even listen to some Mozart. Food, exercise, and being outdoors can help you maintain healthy levels of stress. When the author finished high school, he decided to take a 5-month holiday to the United States before starting his military service. Originally, he had set his sights on immersing himself in the local culture and nightlife, and making new friends. But, what happened instead? He lay around all day watching TV, and consuming his body weight in sugar and over-cheesed pizza. As a result, he became irritable, depressed, and lacking in energy. His fitness levels also suffered. By the time he rocked up to the naval base, he was completely unprepared for the challenges ahead of him. No wonder his stress levels soared. Here's the key message: food, exercise, and being outdoors can help you maintain healthy levels of stress. When we're stressed, our hormones become depleted by the 2 waves of the stress response. As a result, our vitality, health, and cognitive potency decline, and we become more stressed. See the vicious cycle? Fortunately, diet, exercise, and being outdoors are great ways to produce these hormones and get them circulating again. This will allow your body to recover from any damages caused by stress. If you're wondering where to begin, the author says to start small with incremental changes. On the diet side of things, he recommends limiting coffee and alcohol, as both elevate cortisol and stimulate adrenaline. He also recommends consuming green tea and cocoa. Not only do they stabilize the stress response, but they also strengthen and protect the 3 systems most impacted by chronic stress: immune, nervous, and cardiovascular. Exercise is also a great way to repair your body after a bout of stress. It helps improve the functionality of the brain and promotes hormonal shifts that enhance our physical vitality. While there's no hard and fast rule for what exercise you choose, some forms will be better than others. For example, high-intensity aerobic exercise has been proven to significantly improve cognitive function by boosting the brain-derived neurotrophic factor (BFNF), a protein molecule that increases the production of brain cells. Even taking a 10 to 20-minute walk outside can be beneficial for the body, especially if it's sunny. Moderate sunlight exposure has been proven to beat the blues and boost the immune system. By implementing a few simple things in your daily routine, you can build up your stress resilience, but it's important to be patient. Any valuable life changes take time and effort, but the more work you put in, the more likely you'll be to see results. The key message in this video: stress is unavoidable, but there are practical ways to manage it. Making incremental changes to your lifestyle, learning to shut down your stress response, and taking more time for yourself can help you build up your stress resilience. However, to be successful in managing your stress levels, you'll need to shift your perspective of what stress is. Instead of viewing it as a negative thing, think of it as a positive experience that can help you reach your goals. Actionable advice. Create a stress resilience action plan. Making big changes in our lives can often feel overwhelming. To keep yourself accountable, try designing your own action plan that includes the steps you want to take to ease your stress. Start small by reminding yourself to take a walk for 20 minutes a day, or cook a meal using stress-busting ingredients. You could even try checking in with a loved one once a week to download your stress, and lend a friendly ear to them, too. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.